It was an impressive win for Iowa State, knocking off Kansas State 24-21. Let's talk about it on the live show here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast for this post-game report. Iowa State 24-21 over Kansas State over in Dublin, Ireland. Great game, a lot of fun, and college football is back. That is the best news of the weekend. Winner, loser, whoever you decided to root for, we have college football. That is the number one thing that I want to talk about. It was just fun seeing all the pageantry, all the fans, and good for K-State, good for Iowa State, their fans getting to go overseas and seeing an incredible city in an incredible landscape, and then a really good game. 24-21, Iowa State comes out on top. I am Brian Smith, your host. Normally, I talk recruiting, I talk transfer portal, I talk NIL, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the players that came in and some of the recruitments and all that stuff. But most importantly today, I want to talk about guts. Iowa State, they hung in there. In the first half, their offensive line got beat up pretty bad, and they had several sacks they gave up, and they had a lot of things to fix. Second half, completely different story. The other thing that I want to talk about, clutch plays. Rocco Becht, Hansen, the wide receivers, they're inexperienced for Iowa State. We talked about how they had two different guys drafted in the second round, going to the Houston Texans. Well, congratulations to Iowa State. You found some other players, and your tight ends are 100% as advertised. But I do want to lead off talking about Iowa State's ability to grind it out on the ground. Here's a stat for you, just doing the comparison. Fourth quarter, 76-0. Iowa State's rushing yards compared to Kansas State. I say again, Iowa State in the fourth quarter, 76 yards to 0. I want to kind of go over a few different stats in general, but that one I was just kind of going through right before I hit record here, and I'm just like, man, that's just incredible. Like in the first half, Kansas State, they had 68 yards rushing in the first quarter, 26, then 16, and then in the fourth quarter, 0. As the game went on, their offensive line just got plowed. And they've got good running backs. And I know Dylan Edwards got hurt on the first play. For those you didn't see, first play that he's in the game on a punt return, he not only fumbles, but he hurts his ankle or lower leg. No definitive answer on what it was. Didn't look serious. He never came out of his uniform, and he wasn't on crutches or anything like that, but he didn't play after that. And when you lose the most explosive player in the game, that's pretty rough. But again, like if you just look at the numbers, you can't have a 0, man. 0 yards rushing in the fourth quarter, 76 yards for Iowa State. That is an atrocity. As the game went on, Avery Johnson looked better. He was off his game early, and the rain killed it. The footing was terrible in the first half. It was 7-7. It was an ugly, ugly football game. It wasn't as bad in the second half, but the field was still wet. Got to remember that's a soccer field. So it was different for the linemen, for the receivers, and everybody. And I don't think any player on the field for either squad was remotely comfortable playing football in the first half. Like nobody had the cleats right. Maybe they don't have cleats to wear for that kind of grass. I don't know. But it gives me pause if I'm ever thinking about playing over there as an institution. That's crazy for those kids to be sliding around like that. But second half, Iowa State made the adjustments and they ran the ball well. Let's talk about the specific players here that really got it going. Hansen got stuffed a little bit early. He was averaging like 2.1 yards per carry. But then Hansen in the second half just went bananas in key moments. If he needed 2 yards, he got 3 or 4. If he needed to get outside on the pass that Rocco threw on fourth down to cinch that game, good catch. Had a guy on the edge of him. He got past, turned on the Jets, and almost scored. It's probably better that he didn't because they just ran out the clock with a few times Rocco down on the ball. But Rocco Becht made that pass, and Hansen made the key play. And that's after they'd wore out Kansas State's front. This is something that we talked about leading up to the game. And I talked about with Christian Raw on Friday, Dylan Edwards doing that to Iowa State. With him not in, it hurt them. They had some decent runs in the first half, but they just didn't have any answers in the second half. Iowa State really committed to the box, opened up some passing lanes for the ability of Avery Johnson just to throw ropes. He's got an arm, but they just found a way to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and in drops. They had a key drop on a 4th down in the other team's territory. Like, anytime Kansas State had a chance to really shift the momentum, they would fall flat. And on 3rd downs, they had 5 first downs on 3rd downs for quite a while. They just never got another one. They were 1 for 4 on 4th downs, while Iowa State was 3 for 3. 3 for 3. And the big 4th down that Kansas State didn't get, of course, Avery Johnson runs a quarterback sweep left. He didn't want any part of the contact. The safety comes in, Patterson for Iowa State, and just smoked him. And that was the play of the game for the Iowa State defense. They had the opportunity to seize the momentum then, and from that play on, Iowa State dominated the game. They ended up with a 10-point lead, and even though, got to give Avery some credit, he threw that ball going to his left for a touchdown, and Iowa State safety got a little too greedy going for the ball and missed, and they scored. They still couldn't get anything done at the end to really make it happen. So Iowa State 1-0. They knock off Kansas State, and you have to ask yourself, is Kansas State out? If Dylan Edwards is not that guy that's going to be able to come in and play, like, lower leg injuries for any running back is bad, but for somebody that is going to make his living on making defenders miss, gives me a lot of pause about Kansas State's ability to make it to the Big 12 title game. They were my Big 12 pick to win it, but of course I didn't foresee Dylan getting hurt, and that sucks. You hate to see a guy with that much talent have to go to the ground and not get back up without like some help. Like, first play of the season, man, he's one of the most electric players in college football. He's a 4-3 guy. I hate that for him, for Kansas State, the Big 12, and just me and everybody else that loves college football. That's no good. For Iowa State, though, they've got some of their own problems. When we come back here in a couple of minutes, I'm going to go over a little bit with the injuries, talk about Rocco Becht. I knew his family when he was in Tampa. I used to live there. I also want to talk about the ability for Iowa State now to kind of set their own narrative, because despite having a lot of no-name guys, nobody knew about those receivers, they got it done. And the offensive line, like, completely, it was like 2 different worlds, first half to second half. They were averaging 2 yards a carry in the first half, getting smoked at the line of scrimmage. But in the second half, they averaged over 4 yards a tote. And Iowa State was really consistent, especially, again, they were 3 for 3 on 4th down. One of them was the pass Rocco made out to Hansen in the flat, the running back, late in the game, but they ran the ball when they needed to. They got themselves in manageable situations and completely changed the narrative of that game. I thought they were going to get crushed in the second half, the way the game was going, and the script is flipped. When we come back, we're going to talk about that next here on this live edition of the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who look for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling for your MVP, eyeing a bold shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race, maybe, or perhaps you've got somebody you really think is going to win it. For me, it's Joe Burrow. Maybe for you, it's Saquon Barkley. Whoever it is, FanDuel lets you make your decision. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because FanDuel Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. And I appreciate you stopping in to talk Iowa State and Kansas State on this live show. A lot to talk about here. First off, shout out to the Becht family. They were always great to me when I scouted them, talked to them, and everything else, whatever was going on, whether it was just a high school practice, whether it was a game. Rocco was great. His mom, his dad, his sister, everybody were great. So good for them. They went over to Ireland, saw their son lead their team to a victory. And that was a kid that I knew was going to be a good college player, but he's exceeded my expectations for one main reason. He is as clutch as it gets, and you can't put that into perspective. I had faith in him, but I didn't know he could run like that. I didn't know he could make clutch passes like that. That little flat pass to Hansen, that easily could have been sailed over. You get hyped up when you call that pass as a quarterback because he had a two-way go. He said so after the game. Hats off to Rocco for making the throw. And by the way, nice catch by Hansen and an even better run. This is the definition of the kind of team that wins the Big 12. You get a quarterback out of Florida that a bunch of schools recruited. You get a few guys like Hansen, some other guys that were under-recruited. And even though your left guard's out of the lineup, you find a way to get it done. That's pretty awesome, man. I'm not really sure if they have what it really takes to make it happen in any way, shape, or form in terms of like getting to 10-2, 11-1, something like that. It's just one game, but the guts that Iowa State has is really good. Now, I also want to, oh, by the way, Joe Rudin, you are welcome. He says, thanks, Brian, for you in the chat. Appreciate it. If you got any comments, join the chat. More than happy to comment, or if you want to hear about anything else beyond the Iowa State-Kansas State game, fire away. More than happy to do that. But I just want to read off some stats from the game now and kind of go over some of the players. There's one young man that I wasn't really that familiar with, and this is the kid that caught the first touchdown of the entire season, by the way. Overby, I don't know anything about him, and he's a really, really good player, but he's got 6'4", 6'5". If that kid can come along with the way they run the ball, I would say they're in pretty good shape. I don't know if he's a guy that has the ability to be consistent yet. Does he understand reading defenses the way you want? He's a pretty young kid. He's only a second-year player. I believe he's out of St. Louis or Kansas City, Dominic Overby. But he's a tall drink of water that can really run. That could be the key for Rocco in the Iowa State Cyclones. And then on top of it, Sama really came on with some good runs. And again, Hansen as well. Between them, they had 30 carries for 114 yards. Not the greatest per carry average, but in the first half, they just got mauled. And they shifted it up. Now, on the other side, this is where, again, there needs to be some questions answered here. What in the world happened with Kansas State? Because they didn't have a rushing yard in the fourth quarter. They only had 16 rushing yards in the third quarter. And on top of that, I understood that they got behind us for a second, but it was still a close game. Why did they just abandon the running game? Was it something they were seeing? They threw the ball much better in the second half, and Avery Johnson threw for like 270 and a couple of scores, but they didn't have anything else. I was a little disappointed with that. For the entirety of the second half, though, K-State, I mean, they pass protected pretty well for Avery, and he's a slippery guy to get to the ground anyways, fast and as strong as he is. They threw for 213, but they just couldn't get it done on third downs. Drops, again, the key fourth down drop, late third quarter, I believe. I don't remember exactly when it was, but that was a massive. Let me see if I got this written down. They also had Brown missed a touchdown. 2 plays later, he caught a bomb. But the big play, you just can't have it happen with the drop. I don't have the exact time written down, but they would have been in field goal range already, 1st and 10 with the momentum changing fourth down play. It was a heck of a run out to the flat by Avery. They were still running the ball, at least trying a little bit at that point. And then you drop the ball. Clutch plays change games, and Iowa State made them. But here are the stats in the fourth quarter only, just team stats. A lot of like the entire game was boring offensively, then totally changed. Iowa State, 16 carries, 76 yards, 4.8. Kansas State, 1 carry for 0 yards. 1 carry. Not very much. Third downs, Iowa State was only 1 of 4. Kansas State was only 1 of 2. But Kansas State missed their fourth down while Iowa State made theirs the pass that Rocco threw out to Hansen. 25 plays for Iowa State, only 8 for Kansas State. Time of possession, Iowa State, again, running the football. 12 minutes and 9 seconds. K-State, 251. It's crazy. They scored 2 touchdowns on that, but they still didn't really win the quarter because they couldn't get the ball back. Their defense ran out of gas. Total yards for the game, Kansas State was at 383 to 313, but a 65-yard touchdown was a big part of that. They also had the other bomb that was deep. I think that Jace is really good. the wide receiver. He made some nice plays. Matter of fact, let's see what he had for the game for the Wildcats. He's a good football player. He was the guy that Iowa State was probably more concerned about than anybody else coming into the game. He had 4 catches for 78 yards and a score. He was targeted 8 times, though. A couple of them could have been – they were listed as drops here on the stat sheet that I have. A veteran player can't have drops like that. That's how you lose games. Oakley had a nice game, 5 catches for 62 yards, but they had 4 drops altogether, and that's rough. Only 2 drops, according to this, for Iowa State. Man, they were just consistent. The Eskildon kid, I don't know how I pronounced that. He had a couple of nice catches. That's going to be a good possession receiver for Rocco over at Iowa State. Brahmer, kids, 2 catches for 41 yards. He had a 21 and a 20-yarder. Only targeted 3 times, but it mattered when he caught the ball. They just did the little things. And in a lot of ways, that's what Big 12 football often is. But I was amazed by it. Because, again, they just looked so bad at the line of scrimmage in the first half. They were getting run on, and they couldn't run the ball. I'm like, eventually, this is going to snowball for K-State. And it didn't. It just didn't. So I want to come back here in a second. I want to talk about big picture for the Big 12. How does this team go through the gauntlet of the games that they have? It's going to be hard because they're going to have to figure out their offensive line, especially if their left guard's out for a little while. They got some problems there. Their left guard spot is not ready for teams like Texas Tech, etc. That's going to be difficult. But if they are able to fix that, those wide receivers are going to get better. They got 2 really good running backs. Rocco's a better runner than what I thought. Is Iowa State now the favorite to win the Big 12 conference? We're going to talk about that next here on the Portal Podcast. This show is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. It even has an AI agent that handles after-hour calls, answers questions, and captures leads, so you'll never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone. No missed calls. No missed customers. All right, let's talk about Iowa State. Are they the team to beat now in the Big 12? To figure that out, again, running game's going to have to get better. Offensive line's going to have to get better. You can be clutch, but you got to be consistent too. They got out of that hole in the first half, couldn't run the ball for diddly. And in the second half, they got busy, but they're going to need to give Rocco more protection too. He got sacked, I believe, 4 times. That's not good enough. Defense, though, showed up. Even though they had a couple miscues mentally, they're going to get better. They've got a little inexperience in their secondary, but they'll get better. The more important question, though, is the schedule. How does it line up? I was just looking at it, and in 2 weeks, they got South Dakota this coming weekend in Ames to open up the season, but they've got Iowa going to Iowa State on September 6th. Then they go to Arkansas State. They've got Arizona at home. They go to Cincinnati. So basically, the only game they should have any chance of losing is Iowa. They play them in 2 weeks. If they beat them, they should be going into the Colorado game, which is October 11th. I think, just my opinion, they should be going into that game undefeated. If they're not, it would be a little bit surprising to me. To that end, the next weekend is a bye, and then they get BYU. That's going to be a physical team, so they get a bye at a good time. Okay, that's good news. But right after you play BYU, it gets real. You get that physical game against the Cougars, which, their quarterback situation's iffy. They're probably really going to try to run the ball and grind on you. The next week, you're at home, but you get a chance for revenge and that opportunity that passed Arizona State comes to Ames. But then you can't, even if you win that game, you can't rest on your laurels. Texas Christian can score. They got passing offense that's crazy, threw for around 4,000 yards last year. You go on the road to TCU. And then the final two games, you got Kansas at home. Then you go to Oklahoma State. Hard to say what you're going to get with Kansas. If Daniels is healthy, at quarterback, you can lose that game. They could absolutely win. Oklahoma State didn't win a conference game last year. I have zero idea what you're going to get. But is it a good chance to see Iowa State now win 10 games? I think if I had to pick one way or the other, I'd say 10-2 is a very likely outcome. Arizona State, the TCU game, BYU game, Colorado game, that month of October will be interesting. Plus, they play at Cincinnati. You can't screw around there. The month of October is going to be difficult. And then you get into the first 2 weeks of November. Kansas and Oklahoma State to finish up. It's not terribly difficult. But the biggest thing they got to do is get ready, because I guarantee you, Iowa has a very good offensive line, not just a good one, a very good offensive line, experienced. They're going to run the ball. They got a veteran quarterback. If Iowa State does not beat Iowa, then you got a problem, because they're probably going to lose in a way that can be exposed to other teams. A lot of teams in the Big 12 can throw it. If they see that you struggle running the ball and you stop the run at a mediocre pace like they did early in the game against Kansas State, if they revert back to that in conjunction with the quarterbacks you're going to be playing, 9-3, 8-4 becomes more realistic. The next 2 weeks are the most important for Iowa State. How do they handle slowing down anybody, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a true running back, a big fullback, tackling in the flat, all the little things that they struggled with, at least at points in the first half, they need to get better in terms of consistent. Second half, they were pretty darn good with it. They just really struggled in coverage all of a sudden. They just flipped. And I know they were more aggressive, but Iowa State's got a chance to do that. As for Kansas State, the number one thing is what's going on with Dylan Edwards. What's going on with Dylan Edwards? If he's not able to go, if he is not ready week after week after week, I'm not even going to get into their schedule really, but that's a problem. You just can't lose guys like that. He's your best kick return player. He's your best player in terms of the ability to go out and get it done as a running back. I mean, that's tough, man. You got North Dakota, and then you got Army the next couple of weeks. You got got Arizona on the road. You got UCF at home. Got a pretty light schedule to start out. Plenty of time before the October 4th game at Baylor. That's your huge game. But you also have to go to Kansas. You always beat them, but who knows? Again, is Daniels healthy? Texas Tech comes to Kansas State. I guarantee you they're going to run the ball, and they're better in the trenches. So if you thought Iowa State's defense was tough, the way the money was spent for Texas Tech, that's interesting. You got Utah on the road. You got Colorado coming. Kansas State's got a lot of questions, and they've got talent. I'm not debating that. They've got talent, but they got to get Edwards back, and they got to figure out what it was, and give credit to Iowa State's defensive staff, by the way. They got to figure out what Iowa State's defensive staff did that just shook them in terms of running the ball in the second half. Again, 0 rushing yards in the fourth quarter, 1 carry. Third quarter, they only had 16 rushing yards. They didn't have trust on fourth down. They gave it to Avery. I mean, he's a great athlete. They didn't give it to their running back. Some of these things give me pause. And that, to me, they're the better team when they're fully healthy, but they weren't as physical in the second half. So that was just weird. You lose your speedy guy, but then you don't play as much power football. That was very surprising. I thought Iowa State's coaching staff completely won the second half. Completely. And they still barely won because Avery made some really big plays. That's why so many people are high on him. But I think you have to look at this game and say to yourself, Kansas State is the enigma in the Big 12 right now. They could finish 6th or they could finish 1st. Got to get Edwards back, and you got to figure out what's going on at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, because you started so red hot and then you finish with a fizzle on offense and defense at the line of scrimmage. A climbing team, very surprising. Very, very surprising and disappointing. Kansas State should be a team that's top 4 in the league every year with how they're built to run the football and to stop the run. And it started out that way too. Again, it's so wild. But anyway, I just wanted to give my reaction. Congrats to Iowa State. They earned that victory. And congratulations to everybody that got to go. I'd love to go to Ireland sometime too. Congratulations to them and all the opportunities to be in Dublin and being in a new culture. That's a lot of fun. But college football is back. That's still my biggest takeaway from today. And I really loved it. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Normally covering recruiting, the transfer portal, NIL, and all that. But I'm going to have reaction shows on games every weekend. I don't care if it's Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, Miami, Texas, Ohio State, West Virginia playing. Who knows? Rich Rod's back. I got to do a couple of West Virginia reaction shows this year. SEC games like Alabama, Georgia. I'm going to do a ton. Make sure you check out the Portal Podcast, like and subscribe. We will see you again soon.